put in 2 more bird feeders.
Yeah.
Beth put
Oh yeah. But as soon as it hits that, around 20, 25 clicks or something like this, man, they'll. Had 15 acres that there was two alfalfa fields, and then it dropped off down to the creek. But right along that edge, for about, I don't know, 300-400 yards, there was just a whole row of raspberry bushes. And so I go out there every once in a while, check them, and they're not quite ready, not quite ready. So I remember on Thursday, before I went to work, I checked them, and I thought, hey, maybe this weekend. So I get up Saturday morning, make breakfast, everything like this. About, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock, I get out there, all gone. All gone, picked clean.
I knew a chapter, but I didn't know that.
Me neither. That was shocked me. I mean, it was just like, how in the world? There must have been 10,000 birds come in there. Yeah, we also had some issues with the dew beetles.
Really?
Yeah, but I figured out there's a chemical I put because they come out of the ground or they pupate in my lawn, and they start to come out usually mid to late June. So I put this chemical down in early June, like the first week. I've done it 3 years in a row now. Adele, morning. I've done it. Oh,
change the sprouts,
oh, sure.
soy milk, all that stuff. It's refrigerated. Nice smell. I like the grapes. Not in the grapes,
Yeah.
those burgers.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Those
So
no
this-
almonds. There's no, there's some stuff here. And we finally figured out this cheating arrangement.
I saw Mel the other day. He looks like, he looks like a hippie. His hair is really long.
Really?
Yeah, he wears these super cool sunglasses.
Oh no.
Bill Acosta.
Yeah.
I gotta get my
We had a
That,
friend,
and
we had
then
a,
the couple of the-
we had a friend of ours named Henry. She always had really straight, long blonde hair. And she chemo afterwards, and her hair grew back in, just as curly as you can imagine, just super curly. And first time I saw her, I was like, "You got a perm?" And she's like, "No, I didn't do anything."
We got married in 1981. We both had curves. That was just, that's what you did back then.
Yeah.
So we both had, got to look at this picture. I went, oh, already. Got little kids come.
Oh, yeah.
They look at it, they look at me now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
This is, is that not a perm? Is that natural? No. Oh, yeah, we got
Steve
Steve and Fran.
and Fern.
That's what we're doing. This is really sort of combined presentation.
I think they're,
Because it's the same, it's basically
I
the
think
same
we're gonna have to
thing.
do them separate.
We did that one good presentation.
Well, we might have to person to do,
I was gonna ask,
to
I was gonna ask.
do the presentation. I think we're both going.
Morning.
Morning, Steve. Yeah, I mean,
Morning, Bill.
good morning. How are you? Glad you guys got here. We're worried about having a program. No.
Oh. How you guys doing? Good, how are you? I stopped, I love Martine. Martine? I'm reading glasses, so I had to stop at Walmart to put them all good to get some. That's where I saw you.
I'm ready to talk.
Attending. And some cough drop. Damn allergies. I get some mold or something. Yeah.
Haven't been clear that we've got a, you know, us and our neighbors to the south, we've got a row of those Afghan pines. They're like 40 feet tall.
Oh,
A couple years ago.
county, obviously.
It was just the right time, had a big wind come through, and it was just like a yellow cloud came off those trees. It just covered everything. But it hasn't been, I think probably it's not producing as much pollen because
Oh my God.
I think maybe that might be reducing the amount of pollen.
Well, yeah. And then when the rain kind of washes it away.
Yeah, when it does rain. We're on the North Valley, and, you know, I keep hearing about all these other places getting rain. We haven't got rain.
Really?
Yeah.
I go do my famous naked Indian rain dance to you guys.
I know, we see clouds, it rains north of us, it rains east of us, it rains south, and not on us. We've reported so far it was less than a tenth of an inch.
You had an inch and a half day before yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of people got a lot of rain. In fact, we drove a mile south of us, and there's huge puddles everywhere. Bone dry where we were.
It was so funny. When was it Wednesday? Today's Thursday. Tuesday. Tuesday I had a doctor's appointment, and my office is only about 4 blocks away from where I live, so I walked.
Oh, sure.
But I saw the clouds coming, so I took my umbrella. As soon as I walked in,
Thank you.
We're in trouble now, the boss is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Eileen,
But,
you want to call the roll?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, Mel, thank you.
All right.
Commissioner Zargis,
Oh, here.
Commissioner Herrera, Commissioner Montañez.
Here.
Commissioner Lear,
Here.
Commissioner Castañeda, Commissioner Acosta,
Present.
Chair Zarniak.
Here. Thank you. Do we have to change the agenda? Because you're going to do a combined presentation? Or will we hear them as separate cases?
Chair, Albert Casillas for the record. I have one PowerPoint for both cases. I don't think we need to change the agenda per se.
Okay.
We just need to take two separate votes on the items once I'm done with the presentation.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I'll move the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. I need a motion for the approval of the minutes of July 28th, 2022.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of July 22nd, 2022.
28th,
Second.
28th.
28th, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, no old business. We'll go to case number Z 22007. Albert, you have the floor.
Good morning. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Albert Casillas, 845 North Motown Boulevard.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Albert, hold on a second. What happened to the?
Oh, it should be coming up. There it is.
There we go.
You guys have it on your end right there? Okay.
Commissioners, today we have two items that are related to each other. It's a zone change request and an SUP. The zone change is case number Z22007. We have Lower Rio Grande Public Waterworks Authority and the applicant being Josh Smith for them. The property in itself, it's located off of Holguin Road and Myers Road, and this is in Baldo, New Mexico. Currently zone R5. It is a 30-acre parcel, and they're proposing to go from R5 to T2, and this is in order to build a community solar generating facility, and they're also proposing future storage facilities to provide water and sewer services to Lower Rio Grande customers. Location map here, we see I-10 is going to be somewhere in this area, and this is the Baldo exit right here, Baldo Drive. You go up Holguin Road, which connects to Myers, and then that's the property there south of Myers Road. This is a close-up of the aerial. So basically you have Holguin right here coming in on Myers. There's Ward Road. So Myers is county maintained up to this point, and also Ward Road. And then right here, you just have kind of like a gravel road going into the property here, all the way to the end. It's basically a dead end that ends at the EBID ditch. Here is a zoning map of the area. Back before the UDC was adopted, you might recall that Baldo fell under the Baldo Community District map. So down there, because it already had, this wasn't performance district back in the day, it actually had map zoning out there. So that's why down in this area, you're not gonna see transect zones, you're gonna see use zones down there. Because it had pretty much similar zoning to what the ETZ had back in the day. So that's why you end up with the D2s and then the commercial zoning out there instead of like the T4s and the T3s out there. That's why it's going to have a use zoning out there. The property itself, it's R5. It's basically surrounded by a lot of R5s and some of the D1s. Right north of it, you'll have the D2. So basically, it's just a mix of residential and ag out there. So yeah, like I stated before, prior to the UDC, the property was CRAG5, which is pretty similar to what the R5 is right now. And when the UDC was adopted, it ended up with that R5 designation. So nothing much switched. It was still a 5-acre minimum. It was still rural, and it was still residential. And now that they're coming in for a zone change on the 30 acres, they're proposing to go from R5 to T2. The project in itself, they're talking about over 12,000 modules. They're rated at 535 watts direct current DC per model. They're mounted on single axis trackers with the maximum height of the solar panels not to exceed 10 feet. And I'll have the applicant kind of give us more of the technical details about the modules themselves. There is going to be fencing surrounding the solar panels, and other above ground equipment will be set back 30 feet from the property line boundaries. There's going to be a locked 20-foot wide gravel road accessing inside into the property. Once the project's operational, it's not going to have any substantial traffic. There's going to be about less than 2 trips per month, and this is just for maintenance. No new infrastructure is being proposed at this time. So when we talk about community solar, per the New Mexico, this is coming off the New Mexico PRC website. Community solar programs promote participation in renewable energy solutions by allowing electric utility customers to purchase shares in a renewable energy facility to offset their monthly energy consumption, often via credit on their monthly utility bills or by purchasing or leasing a portion of the solar panels in an array. So this Community Solar Act, SB 84, was signed into law in April 2021 by the governor, and it's still under development. Community-based solar project might benefit individuals, businesses, nonprofits, and other groups who would not otherwise have access to energy from solar installations. Community solar allows for equal access to the economic and environmental benefits of solar energy generation, regardless of the physical attributes or ownership of an individual's home or business. This is coming off of the PRC website, just giving a brief description of what the Community Solar Act entails. So when we look at their site plan, they're basically showing surrounding ownership of parcels. This is Myers Road right here. This is the main access coming into the facility. You're going to have some equipment pads laid out, and then basically the blue is just the modules that are going to be out there. And here we're just zooming out a little bit more on the area. The next couple slides, it's just what's on the property right now. Basically, this is the subject parcel right here. We're looking east, and now we're kind of looking south here, and then back towards Myers on this side and Holguin Road. This is Myers Road. We're kind of looking east here, and then this is a portion of Myers that's county maintained, and then we have Ward Road heading north right there. So when we look at zone changes, we got to look at the decisional criteria under 203.D. We did send out letters. Signs were posted on the property. The legal ad was also placed on the Sun News. There were no letters in opposition or in favor received. These were the signs that were posted on the property. And those were the properties that were notified. When looking at D1, no new homes are being proposed. There's not going to be an impact to population with the proposed use or demographics. Potential traffic flows and impacts, maybe during the 3 to 5 months during construction. But once the facility's set up, it's only about 2 trips per month, and that's just for maintenance. The proposed community solar project is neither commercial nor residential, as it is an unstaffed utility, and it will not affect existing commercial or residential activity. There's no need for new water or sewer connections out there. During the construction phase, there's going to be portable toilets and water is going to be trucked in. There's pretty much going to be a little impact on the existing infrastructure capacities in the area of the project. Like I said, there's no sewer or water facilities that are being proposed at this point. Just during construction, that's where you'll see some impact to Myers. No areas, no environmentally sensitive areas or of historical significance were identified. So there's not going to be much impact to surrounding properties. The property is surrounded by ag and low-density residential uses. The property is located within a FEMA flood map, and it's not suited for development for a residential purpose. It is in a flood zone. The zone change will allow Lower Rio Grande to use the property for storage of equipment and materials and for the development of renewable energy facilities with a special use permit. The applicants, they do have a preventative maintenance plan, which includes site visits, by their trained technicians, and they're pretty much going to be inspecting the facility. So staff believes that it meets the decisional criteria for 203D1. And then we also got to look at the comprehensive plan. Some of the principles, goals, and actions that support the zone change request. We have a livability principle for community affordability. And under the goals, it's to make decisions that support more diverse and affordable communities across the region. Other affordable community indicators, affordability has other elements for which data are not yet available on a countywide basis, but it would be worth tracking. So here we're looking at utility costs. That's one of the items that is being called out as part of other affordable community indicators. We look at strategy number 3, which talks about renewable energy. The county should coordinate and incentivize the development of renewable energy to achieve greater efficiency, capitalize upon the region's solar energy resources, and leverage other assets. We look at goal G6.2, which talks about supporting and to help households and businesses lower their monthly expenses. And goal G2.2, which talks about provide tools to support at appropriate physical structure. Under the Miller criteria, when we look at change of conditions, we can look at the current zone right now. So we talked about how it's not a transect zone, it's a use zone. So under the use zones, the only use zone that would allow for an energy facility would be an industrial zone. So at a minimum, an I-1 would be required. So staff right now, we feel that a transect zone such as a T2 zone with a special use permit would be more appropriate for the requested use, since the T2 is still low density residential and it only allows for a minimum lot size of 2 acres. The SUP in itself would pretty much limit the use on the property to what's being requested today, which would be the solar facility. Any expansions or any other proposed uses would require a new SUP application. The zone change is appropriate as there is compatible existing residential development and zoning designations, and is reasonably necessary to protect the public interest in providing community affordability, promoted even further by the passage of the Community Solar Act of SB 84. So on our findings, which are included in your packet, we do believe that the zone change request for a T2 does satisfy the decisional criteria for D1. We do believe that it is a compatible use. The existing zoning of R5 allows single-family residential on lots of 5 acres or greater. The T2 is pretty much the same thing, but their minimum acreage size, it's a 2 acres, which is still pretty large. The T2 will not be considered a spot zoning, as the proposed zone change will be in harmony with the surrounding areas. It's still residential. And the size of the development is appropriate for the area, and there will be a benefit to the community by increasing the availability of community affordability for a solar utility, and it's going to capitalize upon the region's solar energy resources. And it's also not in significant conflict with the comprehensive plan. So based on the findings, the staff analysis, agency comments, we are recommending approval for zone change Z22-007. So my next couple slides deal with the SUP, and I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the SUP presentation. And then just keep in mind that at the end of the presentation, after public input and the applicant's statement, 2 votes will have to take place, one for the zone change and one for the SUP.
Albert, wait a second. Does anybody have any questions about the zone change?
I don't, Chair, I don't really have a question on the zoning change, but I have a question where it says on the other slide before that one, where you said it was going to be providing future storage facilities to provide water and sewer. Is that for power only, or is there going to be a facility there?
Basically, what Lower Rio Grande was proposing was to have like a storage area for equipment. Across the road, let me go back to the aerial. I forgot to point that out. In this area, this is where they're going to have their office. So that's going to be the Lower Rio Grande office right there. That's where people are going to come in and make payments. So basically, what they were proposing was that at some point, because this property is right north of them, they wanted to have the ability to store equipment if it was necessary out there. So basically, it's just for their equipment in order to support the infrastructure for Lower Rio Grande. Under the T2, under the special use permits, they're basically it's similar to like a contractor's yard. That's basically what they're proposing. So along with the solar facility, they're saying that they would like the ability to, in the future, be able to store materials on site.
So what is on lot 28? That tiny lot right up in the corner.
It's a well.
And then can you go back to the zoning map for a minute? So what is that parcel zone?
I believe it's still D1.
D1? Does that allow for an office?
They did get a zone change not too long ago, but for some reason the zoning map wasn't updated.
So what's its zone now?
It has to be, I believe it's going to be a C1. That's what would allow for an office out there.
C1. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Dan.
I think I saw it in the analysis, but, so there is existing transmission lines that will be used to carry this electricity away from this site. And that doesn't have to be added onto this, or there's, apparently on one of the borders of this property, there's a transmission lines, but.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where exactly that line is, but I can let the applicant address that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill, did you have something?
He sort of answered it in the presentation. I was going to ask about why a Transect Zone, but you did that in the presentation. I missed it when I read the packet last night.
I'm still wondering about the Transect Zone. Why wouldn't we go to an I-1? I mean, if you look at your zoning map, there is no T2 anywhere on the map. There's no T1, T3, T4. The T2 is over.
Yeah, the T2 would be basically across the railroad tracks, but what we're envisioning is that if for some reason the solar doesn't work out, because you got to remember, they still have to apply to the state, they still have to bid to the state to see if they're going to be granted, the credits or everything that's allowed under the SB 84. But if for some reason that doesn't fall through, then it just means that now we have a property in the middle of a residential area that's I-1, and potentially any one of those I-1 uses are now allowed to be on site.
But Albert, you got I-1, it looks like, I don't know, what, 1,000 feet away? Yeah, across the street to the west. But plus now you're going to have a commercial zone just south of that. And there's no, the T2 is used basically for ag, it looks like. Why wasn't Vado Zone T?
Because of the community districting that was already out there.
Because, I'm sorry?
The community district that was already there. So
But
Basel, it's pretty much, Basel had its own map use already. It wasn't a PD out there.
okay.
So around 2010, I think that's when they got the community districting. You might recall, well, about 10, 12 years ago, there was an effort by staff to go out there and start zoning, the different communities. We did Anthony, we did Basel,
Yeah.
La Union, and then legal got involved and said, no, you guys got to put a stop to that. But Basel was one of the ones that ended up getting that map zoning. So you did have commercial uses out there, or commercial zoning designations. You did have industrial and residential, and the large residential zoning designations that R5 is. So that's why we weren't able to, or staff decided to not give it a transit district out there.
So a C2 doesn't allow solar?
It's only I1, I2, or I3.
Yeah, if I understand it right, the T2 would allow part of this to be solar facility and part of it, if they went recreational for some economic reason.
Yeah.
Whereas if we went I-1, then we'd be back for another zone change down the road.
The I1 would allow, well, not only the solar
That would
facility,
limit
but
it to the solar only. You wouldn't be able to put
the
small housing
T2 in itself doesn't allow the solar facility, it's the SUP. that would allow it. So it's not the T2 that would allow the solar facility, it's the SUP. So that's why, we're coming in with a combo of zone change to a T2, which, like I said, if for some reason the deal fell through, the property was still gonna remain residential as it is right now. The only difference is that instead of having it a 5-acre minimum, now it's gonna be a 2-acre minimum under the T2. But they still need approval of the special use permit.
So right now, it's zoned R5. We can't put a special use permit on it with an R5 and allow solar?
Not under the current land use matrix. It's only for T2.
I know it's gonna be a benefit to the community, I don't doubt that. But when that pops up, that's gonna look like a spot zone for sure. That's so isolated. All right, anybody else? Okay, go ahead.
Still don't like transect zones.
Okay, so moving on forward with the special use permit, the decision of criteria, it's pretty much the same as what I had for the zone change. When we talk about potential traffic flows or, we know they're gonna be minimum. It's an unmanned solar facility. There's not gonna be any need for, providing water and sewer to the facility except during the construction phase. Existing roads out there, they're capable of handling, traffic or during construction. Environmentally sensitive areas, like I mentioned before, none were identified. One thing I do want to point out, and this came from the applicant's narrative. When it comes to, there's this sentence in here. So the facility itself will remove about 10 million pounds of carbon dioxide from the utility grid per year, which is the equivalent of planting 250,000 trees, or removing 15,000 passenger vehicles from the road. I thought that was a pretty interesting statement. So I wanted to put that under this section of the decisional criteria. Impacts to surrounding properties, like I stated before, they're going to be minimal. The property is in a flood zone, so it's not really suited for development for residential purposes. And they're going to be implementing best management practices. They do have a decommissioning plan, and that's one of our recommendations for the SUP. So we do feel that the applicant has met the decisional criteria for SUPs. The findings, they're in your code, but going back to the question, the land use matrix in itself only allows a renewable energy facility in certain zoning designations, which is the I1s, the I2s, and the I3s, and in a T2 zone with a special use permit. In order for the approval of the SUP, then of course the zone change needs to be approved as well. And under finding number 7, a community solar facility will benefit the existing residential development as it is renewable energy source that has legislative approval under Senate Bill 84. So for our recommendation, we are recommending approval with 3 conditions: that a case number Z2207 has to be approved in order for the SUP to be approved. There will be a solid wall or fence 6 to 8 feet high constructed around the perimeter of the facility, and a remediation and decommissioning plan shall be submitted at the time of the building permit submittal. And there's about 10 points that they have to address on that decommissioning plan. So that's our recommendation for this SUP. Those 3 comments. And also, the fencing and the zone change having to be approved. So that's the end of our presentation. The applicant is here. They can stand for any questions as well as staff.
go back to the site map, okay? So where's the storage area on this parcel?
So that wasn't depicted on the map, and I've already talked with Martin Lopez from Lower Rio Grande about that. And he can address it right now, but basically the conversation was they would wish for that use to be allowed in case, 20, 25 years from now, they don't renew the lease for the community solar project. But as I explained to Martin is that, well, that use is tied to a site plan. If it's not being depicted on a site plan, then it's not going to happen. So if at a future date they wanted to include the storage of materials on site, then it would just be an administrative special use permit that they would have to apply for. But that was his idea. That's why he included that on his narrative, because they're thinking down the road. But in reality, what the code calls out for is, if you get approval of an SUP and it doesn't happen within a year, then the SUP goes away. But Martin can address that.
So would the SUP allow them to use the entire 30 acres for storage? I don't know why they would want to do that, but would that allow them to use the entire 30 acres?
If that's what they would have applied for, then yes, because a contractor's yard is allowed under an SUP in a T2 zone.
But they'd have to apply for it.
Yes.
Any other questions? Let's hear from the applicant.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mel?
before we bring the applicant forward, just a suggestion, right? Way back when Luis was part of staff, all that area bordering the west side of I-10 eastbound, right? Originally, they applied for a 20-acre or a 15-acre split on parcels, okay? And when we all went to the Del Cerro Community Center, I was totally opposed to that, simply because I thought that those parcels of land under community development were too large for that area. And granted, there's a lot of dairies through there. And so that was also encompassed with Vado. And so when you're looking at a 5-acre parcel in those areas, sooner or later, we're going to have to address that issue, because there's a lot of dairies that are basically closing up in that area. But back to Vado, okay? If for the commissioners thinking about a motion, construction yards, especially with electricity going up there, they should have some kind of fencing. So in case they have any drilling rigs or heavy equipment, that they don't go over the boundary of what they're going to be allowed to do. The next thing is this: what happens if in the event, and Albert addressed that if the SUP is not, all the things that they want to do with it, if it doesn't happen within a year, it goes away. But I think that we should stipulate that as a motion, that the property will revert back to its original zoning. And that's my concern. And like you're right, it serves the community very well. So things to think about when you're getting ready to do a motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. I don't see how you can do that. Revert it to the original zoning. That's okay. But let's hear from the applicant, okay?
Good morning, Mr. Chair,
Morning. She's going to
Commissioners.
swear you in.
Okay.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Josh Smith, 424 North Main Street, Suite 200, Las Cruces.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
Commissioners, my name is Josh Smith. I serve as legal counsel for the Lower Rio Grande Public Waterworks Authority and filed the application on their behalf. We also have Martin Lopez, who's the general manager of the authority, and then Carson Wynand is with the solar developer. They're both likely better equipped to answer logistical questions for you than I am. So I don't really have anything to add except that we believe this would be beneficial to the community, definitely beneficial to the Lower Rio Grande Public Waterworks Authority, and that we do appreciate your consideration today. And I'd be happy to answer any questions I can. Otherwise, I will defer to the gentleman behind me.
Do you know if the applicant has an objection to an I-1? Light industrial?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, sir.
Actually, it's our problem, not yours. Anybody else have a question? Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see the commission.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Carson Wynand, 1 Parkview Ave, Jersey City, New Jersey.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Nice to meet everybody. This is exciting. I'll give a quick overview of who CVE is, what we're doing in New Mexico, touch on the project again quickly. Albert did a great job, though. And then answer any of your questions, maybe talk about the zoning issue. So we are out of New York City. We've been in North America for 5 years. CVE North America, we're part of a larger company called CVE Group. Headquartered in France. We have 250 employees worldwide. We have over 400 operating projects, totaling over 500 megawatts total. CVE Group has been in business for 12 years. CVE North America, we have 35 megawatts in Massachusetts across 7 projects. We have 70 megawatts in New York across 13 projects. And now we're expanding into new states, Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Mexico, states where they allow us to pursue these community solar projects. It takes a little extra legislation that needs to be drafted and approved at the state level for us to construct these projects. So we're monitoring that policy and then pursuing development in viable states. We have approvals. So far, we've been in New Mexico for about a year now. We have approvals for 2 other projects, community solar projects in Chavez County, 1 within the city of Roswell, 1 in Lee County, and 1 in Valencia County. So this will be our 6th. The New Mexico program, it's a pilot community solar program totaling 200 megawatts across the 3 utilities, PNM, Excel, and El Paso. It's an RFP-based program, so we'll be required to submit an application later this year. The Utility Commission just selected their third-party administrator to administer that RFP and review and score all of the bids. It's based on a scoring system. And that it's not a price-based RFP. Each application receives points, and the applications with the highest number of points get awarded, and they get the right to receive the community solar credits for the next 25 years. How community solar works real quickly is we generate electricity back into the grid. The utility allocates monetary credits to us in exchange for that electricity. Then we can allocate those monetary credits onto El Paso customers' utility bills. It shows up as a deduction on their utility bill, and then they pay a separate bill to CVE to receive those credits. So if your utility bill with El Paso is $100 a month, we could allocate $100 worth of credits to your bill. You would be due 0 to El Paso, but then you would have a second bill from CVE for, say, $80, $90, $70, $80, $90 for those credits. So your net savings is 10, 20, 30%. There's a state level requirement for 30% of the customers must be low income. And you actually get additional points in the RFP if you increase that up to 50%. So I think it's safe to say there will be 50% of the customers will be low income customers over the next 25 years, depending on the discount level that they receive, which will be 10 to 30%. They can expect the total savings to these customers will be over $5 million over the next 25 years. It's pretty significant. Every monthly bill for the next 25 years, they'll be receiving 10 to 30% discount. We get additional points in the RFP as well for increasing that discount level. So in New York and Massachusetts, the market rate for the discount is 10%. Here, they're encouraging us to go beyond that, and we will submit at a higher discount level than 10%. There will be trackers, 12,000 panels mounted on single axis trackers. They face east in the morning, west in the afternoon. So they're their highest in the mornings and the evenings. They'll be about 9, 10 feet high at those times. At noon, they're facing straight up to the sun. They'll be about 5 feet high. We'll have a 20-foot wide gravel access road that is locked. After construction should take 3 to 5 months. There'll be about 40 contractors on site during that time. After construction, we're monitoring it remotely, and if there's any problems, we'll send somebody out. But there's also monthly routine check-ins as well. So as Albert said, only a couple cars a month visiting the site. Yep, so one other point, something that CVE does on each project, it's called our Green Initiative. We donate $1 per panel to a local environmental organization. So $12,000 will be going towards a local nonprofit environmental organization. We put together an advisory board of local activists, local professors, and they come up with where that money should go. They vote on where that money should go. And we've done this on all of our projects in New York and Massachusetts as well. I think that covers all I wanted to say. We're okay with the I-1 zoning, and we're even okay with a special use permit condition that states the zoning reverts back to R5 if we don't get awarded in the RFP. That's been a condition on one of our other projects. So, yep.
What determines the 10, 20, or 30% discount?
Yeah. Well, we get additional points in the RFP if we increase that discount for the LMI customers. So I think it's going to be very competitive. There's a lot of solar developers out there. I see them at these meetings. So we want to maximize the number of points that we'll receive from the state, and we will commit to a certain level of discount.
I'm not asking you to do that. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
If I'm a homeowner,
Yeah.
what determines whether I get 10, 20, or 30% discount?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, so it's a month-to-month contract with the homeowners. There's no cost to sign up. There's no termination costs either. It's very low risk.
So it's just participation.
Yeah, I mean, if we have committed to a 30% discount for the low-income portion of the customers, then we would have to offer that to you. The other customers, it's just a free market negotiation. We'd probably start at 10%.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair?
Mel?
Yeah, that was a good question. How is this company going to guarantee 20 or 30% for 25 years? But the next question would be well, it's optional. He said it was optional, right, to log into it. But the question I have is the 30%, how are they going to guarantee that as economic conditions change?
It's contractual, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in the contract with the customer. And for the low-income customers, will be even required by the state. No way around it. Because we
And the
committed
next
to it in our RFP and we won the RFP based on that. You know,
And
for
the next question I have is, what is the cap on low-income housing? How do you address low-income housing? What is the cap on dollar amount?
it's all based off their monthly utility bill. And then we size up how many credits we can award them.
Okay, Mel?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're good, thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right. I guess I'll open it to the floor. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I got it. I think I do have a question.
All right.
Okay, well, either for you or Albert or Janine. I heard you say in your thing that you guys would be okay with the I-1 zone instead of the Transect Zone, but talking about reversion back to another thing. I was just wondering if it might not be better to go I-1 instead, since it's by right there and that there's also other industrial areas near it rather than going in with another Transect Zone, that's all.
Commissioner Sargis, Chair. Like I said before, our only concern is that, for example, if the applicant doesn't, get that bid approved, now we have an I-1 designation on 30 acres. That's where our concern comes in. I think the existing I-1 that we saw on the map, and I drove out there, I just can't remember what it was, but I think it's an existing business that's been there for years. That's why there is that I-1 designation out there. But just to, come in and give an I-1 to a vacant piece of property, opening it up to, manufacturing or any other potential use, we don't think that's probably the best choice for that. So that's why staff is recommending a T2 with the special use permit, because if for some reason, the project falls through, then we still end up with the T2 designation. I know in theory, it might look like a spot zone because now we have a green color, surrounded by a bunch of brown and yellow out there. But the uses that are allowed under T2 and R5 are pretty much similar.
Okay, thank you.
So this is for late, well, I'll bring it up later. Any other questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the case? No. Okay, so we'll close it to public participation. Is there any further discussion among the commission? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the zone change.
I'll make a motion based on the findings of fact, staff analysis, and agency comments. I'll move to approval of case Z22-007, zone change from R5 to T2 rural zoning for community solar facility and storage facilities to provide water and sewer to the lower Rio Grande customers.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Eileen, please call the roll.
Commissioner Herrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Montañez,
Yes.
Commissioner Zargis,
Yes.
Commissioner Lear,
Yes.
Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
Chair Zerniak.
I'm going to vote no on this. Not that it makes any difference, but I want it on the record. Thank you. All right, I need a motion for the special use permit, SU 22-019.
There are no
I'll go ahead. Based on the facts and the presentation by the staff, I would recommend that we approve case number SU 22019, which is a special use permit for a 30-acre parcel for a community solar generating facility and future storage facilities to provide water and sewer services to its customers.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Albert, there were certain restrictions on that SUP, weren't there?
There were some conditions, and you can see what your packet.
So I just want, Commissioner Lear, you'll accept the recommendations of staff as far as
Yes.
conditions? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that's part of the motion. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Any further discussion? Eileen, your turn.
Commissioner Zargis,
Yes.
Commissioner Herrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Montañez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lear,
Yes.
Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
Chair Zerniak.
Yes, thank you very much. Motion's approved. Administrative approvals?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So for the month of July, we issued 22 single-family residential permits that are depicted on the map in yellow. There were 26 additions to single families that are not mapped, and we had 0 commercial buildings. But we did have 5 additions to commercials. And in addition, we issued 22 mobile home installation permits. 20 were on private land and 2 were in mobile home parks. And so our permit fees for July were $62,600 that we collected. Any questions? Good, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any staff input?
We don't have any, Mr. Chair.
Any commission input? I've got a couple things before we adjourn. You okay? Okay. So, Janine, does the Santa Teresa agreement come up for review sometime soon?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we're currently working on that right now.
Is the county in agreement with continuing that agreement?
If I may, I'd
You gonna
rather
defer?
to Christina, since she's very involved with it.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Yes, the county manager is currently working on revising that joint powers agreement. There is still interest in keeping the water utility with CRUA. That probably won't change, but there is an effort to try to bring the planning authority back to the county. Of course, it depends on also Sunland Park agreeing, since part of it is in their ETZ. But that is the plan at this point, is to bring the planning authority back here.
What does that entail? Does that have to be approved by the legislature?
No, it does not, because the joint powers agreement it's between Sunland Park and the county. And so it would have to go to the state for review, but it does not have to go to the legislature. The county manager hopes to have the agreement revised by December, although that might be a little bit optimistic. But I think it will be soon, probably early next year when that'll be finalized.
So Christina, the ETZ for the city of Las Cruces, I think was it 5 miles or 3 miles?
It's 5.
But it wasn't that big for Sunland Park, was it?
It's 3 miles. It depends on population.
It is 3 miles though?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mel?
Acre feet of water in the CRUA area, what is the amount of water that they actually possess?
Beats me.
Right, I don't have that information either.
I think that they have more water than what they need, though. I mean, that was Charlie Crowder's ace in the hole, that he had water.
And the question I have is, why is it that the CRUA board wants to retain full power on water?
Well, Christine, I'll let you answer that.
Well, it really is an agreement between Sunland Park and the county, where neither really want to manage a water utility. I understand that the composition of the board might change as well to include people with technical expertise in water service. And it really is to maintain a centralized location for the water utility, for consistency and just better organization.
So the question I have is, just a second, Mel, if the planning and zoning authority comes back to the county, was Santa Teresa included in the comprehensive plan?
As part of the county, it is. And if we are going to implement the UDC in that area, then we would have to include them in the zoning. Now, whether or not their incorporation is ultimately approved, at least they'll have some underlying zoning in the meantime.
Okay. Mel, did you have another?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
And so basically, from the Verdi group, right? All of that still remains in place, or does it go away?
You mean the master plan?
Then? Yes.
I don't think that has any effect any longer, does it?
I'm not sure.
The Verdi group was a company
Village
that,
One.
yeah.
I mean, Village One is still, because of the way CRUA adopted their zoning, Village One is still in effect in that portion. And so when we implement the UDC, when we get to that point, we will have to take into consideration those standards because there is an active developer right now who is working under those regulations.
Okay. Do we know where Mr. Lyon stands on this?
On the adoption of the UDC?
Yeah.
In that area?
Yeah.
He supports having the county's current ordinance in that area. One of the biggest drawbacks with having an old code in there is that it can't be revised. There's no mechanism for it. And so there's some pretty outdated standards in there. And we've had to process a couple of variances because when it was adopted, nobody planned for the industrial development down in that area, which requires taller buildings than what the code allows.
Okay.
And so because of those things, it really makes sense to have a current code that can be revised.
Okay. So the other question, we have to do something about this T2. I don't think it's appropriate for these solar farms. There must be a way to get a clean zoning designation for the solar farms without having to put a special use permit on top of it. And the T2 strikes me. The Transect zones are problematic for a number of reasons. I mean, as I understood the way Susan presented it to us, those Transect zones really were only supposed to be used in and around the villages, not countywide, and we've got them all over the place. And I know, Christina, I know you're shorthanded, and I'm not asking you to do anything right now, but I think it is a problem that we're going to have to deal with because we're going to get more of these. Okay. Anybody else got a beef?
Just some concerns, Mr. Chair, just some concerns, okay?
Go ahead, Mel.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
When you travel up on Highway 28, both north and south, okay, and then you go into the neighborhood areas and everything, the water issue has always been a key issue for me for development and development rights and all of this. So, but the ultimate cause here is this. You can see that more and more land is not being farmed in any way, shape, or form. Lack of water, I'm sure. But the other one also is this: what are we going to do with all these properties with lack of water and the soil degradation of soil and environmental conditions? What are we going to do with that when we have farms, or even pecan farms that just don't have enough water to feed the plants? Do we have any plans to do anything with that?
That's beyond our scope a little.
I mean, they're private property, so it's up to the property owners to figure out what they want to do with their parcels. I don't see that the county can intervene on their behalf, and probably wouldn't want to anyway. I can't imagine any county commission in Doñana County stepping forward like that.
It's a little beyond our pale.
Does that answer your question, Mel?
Partially, but I'm saying that the environmental issue impacts everybody. So, I mean, how are we going to put our best foot forward regarding that issue?
You mean, are we talking about water or vacant land?
Vacant land.
It's private property, Mel.
Yeah, I realize that. It still is a concern when you would have a 50 or 60 acre parcel, just vacant land, soil erosion, degradation of the soil, environmental impacts, on and on and on.
I think most of that
We'll see
land is, most of that land is zone T2, isn't it, Gene? Yeah, so it's low density residential, 5 acre minimum, 2 acre minimum. That was a compromise with Davier, wasn't it? So that, Mel, that's the status of those parcels. 2 acre minimum residential development. It'd be pretty hard to develop with 2 acre minimums. And I guess they can go down if they have sewer, right? Or no?
Well, no sewer, no development, really, other than septic tanks.
They can go down to 3/4 of an acre if it's in claim of exemption.
Oh, okay. Mel, did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay.
I heard that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yes, but
We'll
the
have a lot of that
underlyings-
for sure.
That doesn't violate state law? What's the minimum for state law for?
3/4.
It is?
3/4 for
Okay.
septic, yes.
All right.
But the underlying zoning would trump for any development. If weeds become a problem, we would enforce our nuisance ordinances. But really, there's really nothing we can do. It is private property and up to the landowners to decide what they want to do if they can't farm anymore.
Okay, Mel?
I'm okay with that for right now, anyway.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything else? I think we'll stand adjourned.
I think that was the last one.